All right, y'all, look, it was a bit of a slow start to the day, a lot of foundation, a lot of data, a lot of timestamps. But y'all, by the end of the day, my jaw was on the floor. Today is Wednesday, August 27th, and we just wrapped up day 4 of Donna Adelson's trial. All right, so we ended yesterday with Tally Police Sergeant Christopher Corbett on the stand. So he was back on the stand today. Now, basically, he took all kinds of data, everything from cell towers to text messages to emails, the GPS from the rental cars, basically anything and everything you can get. He took all of that data and put it together to try to corroborate their story, rule out any theories, anything you can do. So a lot of things came from this. There are 2 main time frames that they looked at. So I'm going to go over those. All right, the first one is that early June trip that Sigfredo and Lewis took to Tallahassee from Miami, and it was believed to be the first attempt on Dan's life. Now, we heard Lewis testify that when they went up there, they followed him around for a little bit, but they didn't kill him because he was with his kids, and they didn't want to kill him in front of his kids. And then they kind of lost him. So it didn't happen, and they came back to Miami. So here's what's interesting about this whole time frame. We went through the data and it shows that Katie and Sigfredo are the ones who went to rent the car. After they do that, Katie makes a call to Charlie. They talk for about 25 minutes. And then right after that, Charlie makes a call to the Adelson landline. Now, here's why this is kind of a big deal. It's out of character. Out of all of these calls that he makes, like less than 2% of them are to the Adelson landline. And we've heard in recordings before where Charlie asked to call back on a landline because he thinks that it's like more secure or something. But that is kind of suspicious according to the state. And they're presenting this like, hey, look at this. But also, the second time, for the second trip that a car is rented, same thing. After that, once he knows that the car is rented, he then calls the landline again, twice, and talks for a total of 33 minutes. Now, it is a landline, so there's no way to really tell who's answering the phone, except on that second trip in July when they rented the car and then he called the landlines. On that one, there are also phone calls from Harvey's cell phone to the landline after that. So the state says if Harvey's calling the landline, then he's probably not home, and it was more than likely Donna that Charlie was talking to. So, out of very few calls that he ever makes to the landline, there's like 4 of them that are only after those cars are rented to go up to Tallahassee for this murder. Kind of suspicious, right? Another thing that was really suspicious about all of this. All right, remember yesterday there was testimony where Donna texting Charlie back in March, and she sent a weird text and was like, hey, I need to talk to you in private. I'm not going to have a lot of alone time today. She was on the way from Tallahassee back down to Miami, and she tells him she needs to talk to him. She's going to do it when she gets to Panera so that she can get away from everybody and nobody can hear her. And she says, delete this text after you read it. So a few minutes go by and then she sends another text. She's like, totally different tone. And it's like, oh, hey, I need to talk to you about Dad's birthday gift. So I'll talk to you, in a little bit when we stop. And she doesn't say to delete that one. So then she says it's about Dad's birthday gift. But here's the thing. The birthday for Harvey isn't until July. She's sending these in March. So what would be so important about a birthday gift 4 months away that she has to go to a Panera bathroom and talk in private on a road trip? 4 months away. Well, the day after the hitmen get back from that June trip where they came back and did not end up killing Dan, the very next day, Charlie is texting Donna and he says, I'm still working on Dad's birthday gift. Well, Donna texts back and says, look, I know, I get it. It's a tough one, but I know you'll pull through. Suspicious. But here's what's worse. Rob said they didn't get him a gift. And Wendy testified the same thing. They didn't get him a gift. Actually, Rob even said that Donna sent them an email saying he doesn't want gifts. Do not bring him any gifts. So if he didn't have gifts, why does it keep getting brought up? Well, the state says that is code for Dan's murder. All right, so let's move into July. Now, on July 3rd, there is an Evite email that is sent to Wendy. This is for the party that they're having for Harvey for his 70th birthday. Now, the Evite was created a while back. Donna has emails saying that, she created it or whatever. And this is kind of like a reminder, hey, this party's coming up. But they introduced this because when Donna put the kids' names in there, she put their last name not as Markel, but as Adelson. Now, remember, they did have their names changed by Wendy about a year after Dan's murder, but this is a couple weeks before his murder. All right, so Harvey's party is on July 5th. The very next day, Wendy is at her parents' house and she sends a text message to Dan. And here's what's weird. She asks him, hey, are you going to be home? Are you going to be in Tallahassee from July 14th to the 18th? Now, the reason that this is kind of sketchy is because those are the exact days that the hitmen end up renting the car and coming back to Tallahassee, and then Dan is murdered. So she's asking if he's going to be in Tallahassee during that time. All right, then we get to the time frame right before the murders. So on the 14th, Charlie and Katie meet up that night. There's texts and data and all of that. They meet up that night, and this is more than likely when he gave her money to give to Sigfredo for the car rental and for the trip. We heard that it was like less than $500, basically just to kind of cover expenses. So they meet up on the 14th. Well, on the 15th, Sigfredo calls 2 different places, finds the car that they end up renting, and they go rent it that night. There's a lot of communication happening between Katie and Sigfredo and between Katie and Charlie. And then, of course, that is when the other calls from Charlie to the Adelson landline happen. On July 16th, sometime in the afternoon, Sigfredo and Lewis leave Miami for Tallahassee. They get up there after midnight sometime. Data shows that they pretty much followed Dan around, which we've also heard in testimony from Lewis. And then they turn their phones off when they're in the gym parking lot. The phones don't seem to be turned back on until around lunchtime. I think it was like 12:19, 12:30, somewhere in that area. By that time, they're already out of Tallahassee on the way back. Now, as for everybody else, there's also data that shows a bunch of different calls and communications between Charlie and Wendy, and between Charlie and Donna, and between Wendy and Donna, and Wendy and Charlie. Everybody's talking to everybody. Now, that morning is when Wendy has the Geek Squad come out to look at her TV. Okay, so here's something really interesting that came out during today's testimony, and I don't remember hearing it in any of the other trials. The morning of Dan's murder, we know that he dropped the kids off at the daycare and Wendy was going to be picking them up. Well, he called and left her a voicemail, and he was like, hey, I was thinking about picking the kids up early. I wanted to take them swimming, and then you can get them from my house like around 4:30. Well, Wendy got the voicemail and a few minutes later texted him and basically told him no. She said, can't, swimming's a no-go. You can't get them early. I'm getting them at 3 o'clock, and pretty much that's that. They go back and forth a little bit because he's upset because he's like, well, this is, I'm supposed to have them according to the paperwork. I'm supposed to have them until 4:30, and that's what time you kept them till last time. And they go back and forth. Anyway, it's not great. But here's what's interesting. There's an 18-minute phone call between Charlie and Wendy. And after that 18-minute phone call, then she texts Dan back and she's like, okay, I'll get him at 4:30 from your place. Just completely changes everything. But that wouldn't be happening anyway because Dan would be dead by then. The state seemed to maybe suggest that phone call for 18 minutes between her and Charlie, maybe that had something to do with what was going to be happening. And that's why she kind of stopped fighting it. It was just like, okay, I don't know. What do y'all think? Let me know in comments. The rest of the data walks through that long route that Wendy took to get to the liquor store. And something that was very interesting, the route that she would have taken to get to the restaurant that she's going to have lunch, it's a lot shorter. I don't think I realized what a difference it was until they showed the map today. They showed the actual route she took and then compared it to the route she would have taken, which was the most direct route from her house to that restaurant. And also, there were other liquor stores along the way. The final timeline evidence is the most crucial. So all of this is what's happening that night. This is the night that Dan was murdered. Now, Wendy is still in her interview with police, and it's like 7:04 p.m. when she calls Donna from that room. It's even on video from the cameras, and she tells Donna, look, I need you to sit down. And then that's when she tells Donna what happened to Dan. So at 7:12, Donna texts Charlie and says, call us ASAP. Now, within an hour of that, Donna and Harvey leave the South Beach area and start heading north. And you can kind of see, it doesn't give their exact location, but it shows the towers and you can kind of see them heading north. Now, Charlie tells Katie in a text message, hey, you know, we're supposed to go out tonight, whatever I guess they were supposed to do. But he's like, I don't feel well. Maybe we can just hang out at my house, AKA come to my house. So Katie had testified that when she got over to Charlie's that night, Charlie told her his parents just left and that they had dropped off the money for this hit. Now, there are text messages that were introduced, and one of them is very, very incriminating. Just before 9 o'clock, Donna texts Charlie and says, I'm outside of your house. Now, this corroborates exactly what Katie McBanois said. And the reason this is such a big deal is because this text shows her going to Charlie's house, handing over the money for the hit. It shows what prosecutors say is her role in this murder. Now, Charlie's not home yet when they get there. So about 20 minutes pass and he sends a text saying he's 10 minutes away. So then he gets there. They estimated that they were there together maybe about half an hour. And then we know that the Adelsons kept traveling north and Charlie stayed at the house and then Katie got over there. Now, look, this is a lot of data and it's really hard to argue with data, right? So cross-examination, a little tough because they didn't seem to have a whole lot to work with. They basically pointed out that the phone doesn't always ping to the closest tower. Even though you're seeing this tower, that's not the actual location of the phone. So I guess that's all they really have to work with. Let me know what y'all think. They also followed their same pattern they've kind of been doing where they're trying to distance Donna from things a little bit. They point out the times when Wendy calls Charlie and not Donna, and they point out when Wendy calls Donna instead of Donna calling Wendy. Basically trying to do whatever they can to distance her from any of the happenings going on. So after all of the timeline stuff, the next on the stand is an undercover FBI agent. Now, there's no video allowed of his face, so he's still working undercover, needed to be protected. But we did get to hear audio. Now, this is the undercover FBI agent that was actually in charge of the bump that we've heard so much about. And the bump is huge in this case, so we'll get to that in just a minute. And then comes Special Agent Pat Sanford. And with him, we finally, after waiting all day, get to hear some of these calls between Donna and Charlie and the bump. Now, these calls with Donna and Charlie are recorded about 2 years after Dan's murder. And this is some of the most shocking pieces of evidence against Donna that we have seen so far. Now, the first few that we heard, it's mostly Charlie and Donna complaining about Wendy's dating life. They're talking about a guy that Wendy was dating at the time that they wanted her to keep dating. He was successful and they think he's so great. Now, Donna is asking Charlie to get involved and he says, okay, he'll talk to her. The recordings give a glimpse into Charlie's personality. He can be crude and he can be incredibly shallow, and we see that. And of course, it's yet another example of Donna's incessant meddling. The main takeaway here seems to be that when Donna can't control Wendy, she recruits Charlie to do it. Okay. So now for the main event, the bump. So a bump is when an undercover police officer conducts a face-to-face interaction with someone. The goal is trying to maybe extract information or pass along information, or like with this case, tickle the wire. Now, tickling the wire is a term used in law enforcement. The wire refers to something like a telephone wire that can be tapped when doing surveillance. Tickling it is basically provoking a response to get it active. So they do something that they know is going to get their targets on the phone making calls. And then they can listen into those calls. It gives them new information, new leads, and it can help identify who's involved and how. Now, during the bump, the undercover agent walks up to Donna as she's leaving her building, and he hands her a flyer. He calls her Miss Adelson and hands her a flyer. The flyer is a printout that relates to the murder of Dan. On it, he had written $5,000 along with a handwritten phone number, which belonged to a phone that the officer carried with him. Now, there was some body cam of this, plus someone recording from across the street. So we do have audio and some video of it. Check it out.
Excuse me, Mrs. Adelson? How you doing? Just want to give you this. Listen. You're scared. No, don't be scared.
All right, so remember, the whole point of this is to provoke the target and get them making phone calls. And who does Donna call right after the bump? Charlie Adelson. And y'all, my jaw is on the floor. Take a listen.
Does it involve me or other people?
Well, probably both of them.
What's that?
Probably the two of them. So you probably have a general idea what I'm talking about.
It involves the both of us. It involves the both of us. You're handed a flyer about Dan Markel's death, and you say, this involves the both of us. And she says it twice. That's pretty bad, right? Charlie's a talker, and we know this. And although Donna seems hesitant to reveal information over the phone, she doesn't want to talk, Charlie continually presses her about the incident. He asks her, is it the IRS? Are we getting sued? Is the government involved? All kinds of things. And then Charlie calls Katie because Donna mentioned an ex-girlfriend. But here's the thing. She never said Katie's name specifically. It could have been any number of Charlie's exes, right? We've heard there's so many. So why does he immediately call her? And the guy never mentioned Donna's son either. When Charlie's on the phone with Katie, he actually even makes a comment about, yeah, he said your name. And then he's like, well, I think he said your name. If I don't remember that right, I'm going to feel stupid. Well, now on the call with Katie, he asks her if there's someplace that she can go to talk to him, kind of insinuating she needs to be alone in a quiet space so she can hear what he's saying and nobody else can hear what they're saying. Now, we've heard that Charlie and Katie did meet up, and this is the infamous Dolce Vita recording that we've heard so much about. The audio was cleaned up and enhanced by some of those witnesses who testified earlier today. And Agent Sanford is going to be back on the stand tomorrow, so we can probably expect the jury to hear that recording then. Y'all, it seems like up to this point, the prosecution has been meticulously laying out what happened and the roles that each person played in all of this. But there hasn't been a lot of solid evidence that actually linked Donna until today. Y'all, I think the two biggest pieces of evidence against Donna Adelson were shown to the jury today. Those recordings and that text that's saying she's outside. Katie testified that Charlie told her that's when Donna and Harvey came by and dropped off the money for the hit. So this corroborates that. And then they hear her own voice on a recording saying this involves both her and Charlie. Wow. I can't wait to hear what y'all are thinking about today because I feel like it was just so big. So let me know in comments. I have a few questions. Do you think that this pushed the jury beyond a reasonable doubt? Or do you think that we still have a way to go? And also, I want to know what you think Donna's defense could possibly be for those recordings. Let me know. And also, do you think Charlie is going to testify for the state? Or do they even need him? Maybe he'll be called for the defense. I have so many questions, and I want to hear what y'all think. Tomorrow is going to be another big day as the prosecution starts bringing all of this together. So make sure you subscribe and hit your notifications so that you know when we go live. I will be live at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow, streaming the entire court day. So come join us right here on Crime Junkie Jury.